Hi, everybody. This is the final show of the Ankrum Opera House's 2022 season. Thank you so much for being here. It's been a really exciting year. We have 4 extraordinary stories to offer you today, but just a few things first. Turn off your cell phones or silence them, please. If there's an emergency, you can go out that door or these doors. I don't know if you noticed on the... Oh, I'm Paul Ricciardi. Jeff Musso and I run the Opera House, and we're so grateful you could be here. You may have noticed as you came in some designs on the side of the building or in the lobby. So the Ankrum Opera House acquired the building next door, and we are transforming it into a center for storytelling, artist housing, actor housing.
It's still working.
And it's still working. That's okay. So we will start breaking ground early next year. And so along with that, we have decided to change our name. Starting next year, we will become the Ankrum Center for the Arts, or the Ankrum Center. And we think that this really embodies who we are and who we're becoming. We do theater, we do community events like this, we do all sorts of other things, like, for example, for the past 3 years, we have been teaching storytelling, the very same model that you're seeing today, to 350 4th, 5th, and 6th graders at Taconic Hills Middle School. So we're there all fall, and we teach them the art of storytelling, and it links up with their literacy curriculum. And something very cool is, for the first time, one of the graduates of that program is going to be on this stage today. We've never done that before, so you'll get a real live 7th grader who's taken the storytelling workshop twice. So these are the kinds of programs we're offering, and so we think that the Ankrum Center better embodies that spirit. We will announce our 2023 season sometime in the near future, so if you're not on our mailing list, get on it. This program is sponsored by the Berkshire Taconic Community Foundation, so we want to give them a shout out. I think that's all I needed to say. Our first storyteller of the day is, in fact, a graduate of the Taconic Hill Storytelling Program with a story about the unique ways in which friends can be made. From Prairieville, New York, please welcome to the stage, Danielle Molinski.
When I was 8 years old, I created a mini movie with my little brother. That led me to the world of the internet and animation. There I met this YouTuber. Their channel is named Caddy and Rosie. They created cartoon animations, which inspired me so much. I decided to make my own. There I joined a multi-animator project, or a MAP for short. That is when a bunch of animators from the internet come together and they create one video. So I joined that, and so did Melissa. Now I was having lots of problems with the creator of the MAP. We had fights a lot. But Melissa was there for me, and she helped me so much, which made me feel like a better person. So we decided to play video games together. So now the only way we could communicate was the public comments of YouTube and video games, which have a lot of censoring, so you can't say anything, not even numbers. So we did that for a few months, and we started to become good friends. Then one day we decided, we should have a different way to talk besides where everybody else can see stuff. So we asked our parents for permission to text, and I was kind of unprepared, but everybody said yes, and I was so excited that I could now actually talk to her. So for a few more months we played games and we texted. Now we made animations together, and we watched videos and just became better friends. But we were okay, we text, but what else can we do? So it did take a little more convincing, but we asked our parents if we could voice call. So now I would be able to talk to her instead of just words on the screen, just words on the screen with no emotion. So they said yes, and I could actually hear her voice. I was oh my gosh, I can actually hear her. So there we became like even better friends. So now we called, texted, and played games, all while like doing lots of stuff that we liked. A few months more passed. Something's missing. What else could we do? FaceTime. we could video call. So now, like, it's a little like scary because like, what if she's like an elderly like man coming to stalk me? Like, do they want my organs? So we got up to our parents and asked them if it was like okay to call. So it took a lot more convincing, but they eventually said yes. We just had to be next to them. So we both pressed the FaceTime button, and boom, I could see her face. She was a real human, I assure you that. And it was a little awkward, but my heart was like so full, like, oh my gosh. This went from like YouTube to like actual best friends that are now like actually being able to talk to each other and see their faces. And then we like couldn't like actually touch each other or like be like within like 5 feet or anything, but we still can now like see each other. And we did for like the next, like it took like 2 days, I think, 2 or 3 days, but then we started to FaceTime every single day. Like get home from school, do homework, call Melissa. And we did that so much. We formed like such a big relationship. It was like my whole world. And so for like a few more months, we just did that and that and that. So now it became like a daily thing. Like it was a part of my routine. So one day I'm just like laying in my bed. Hi Melissa. Hi Danielle. And but like it wasn't like any other time. She like turned around and went silent. Hello, Melissa. Are you still there? She's like listening to somebody. Melissa. Then her like jaw dropped. Melissa, are you still okay there, buddy? Then she's like, we're going to New York. Now you'd probably think I would at least have 1 minute of silence. Like, oh my gosh, no. Immediately started screaming, ran out of my room, running in circles around the house. Melissa's coming to New York. Melissa's coming. Come on, we're gonna meet her. Oh my gosh. It took me a whole 2 days to calm down to a normal level of excitement. Like, I was so worked up. So she wouldn't be coming for another month. So we spent that whole month thinking of things we do. Like, okay, let's go outside. Like, let's like take stones, like make a snowman out of stones, or like let's do karaoke. Let's like feel each other's knees since they're gonna be real now. And we also created a meeting dance, which we do when she came. So a month of that passed. So much excitement. I don't know how I even stayed in one piece. It was the day of. It would take her about like 8 hours just to get to New York. And then she'd have to like set up and get her own hotel and everything. But I was really impatient. And I bet I still would be. So.
Unknown caller.
It's okay. So the day of, I'm outside. So I live right next to like the main road, so I can like see it. So I just kept going back and forth. Every car. Oh my gosh. No, that car. It's gotta be that one. No. Come on, turn. No, I could have sworn her car was black or something. And so that happened for a few hours. I had to go inside, eat lunch. Did that in like 20 minutes. Went back outside. And it was kind of cold, so I had to have a jacket. But then I was about to give up, like, you know what, I'm just gonna go inside. I'm sure she'll come someday. This little white car from the opposite side I thought it was gonna come slowly, like, turned down the road. That's Melissa! My excitement levels were through the roof. I quickly went to the end of the driveway and got in my meeting dance position. So her car slowly and dramatically came up the driveway and she stepped out of the car. All while I'm just in this position waiting for her. And you probably think again, like, they've got to hug, they've got to scream, they've got to be like, oh my gosh, hi! No, complete dead silence as we both did our meeting dance in front of our parents, which had no idea what it was. And then we hugged. And my heart like exploded. I know I keep saying that, but really this is like did what happened. Like I was losing it. Immediately took her inside, showed her like all these things like, oh my gosh, you can actually touch the stuffed animal now or something. And then so we spent that whole night. We had cake. We went outside. We explored like the whole property. And we touched each other's knees as we were planning. But sadly, that like went by so fast and she did have to go. But I did try hiding her in the closet and I did try like running out of the house. Both did not work, so I had to say my goodbyes. And like as soon as she pulled away, I immediately FaceTimed her. Because I had known her like that my whole life. No, I still did miss her, okay? I still did miss her. I missed her a lot. I wanted to be with her more. But I had known her like my whole life on the phone. So we called each other and we talked about it. Like, oh my gosh, remember like 5 minutes ago when I could touch your kneecap? And so that like made us even more close friends. So like, yeah, she's still my whole world. We would FaceTime every single day. Just like always, we'd watch cartoons. And like a lot of months of that passed. It was summertime, and me and my family surprised her with a trip at Niagara Falls. So she like didn't know we were coming. We both met up in the same hotel. So for 2 days, we got to like vacation together. But apparently she did know I was coming. I pretended to be her coffee lady, but she for some reason I guess she overheard her parents. So she made me a T-shirt. And that's both our characters, because you know how we like animate? That one's hers, that one's mine. And her mom had a printer for that. So we both wore those. And we got to do more stuff. Like we got to see the waterfall. I got to get ice cream. We got to touch our knees even more. And so it was so awesome. I still miss her now. So sadly that had to come to an end as well. We still FaceTime every single chance we get. We can't do it as much since of school now. But basically like the world is full of surprises and anything's possible if you put your mind to it.
Awesome. You know, something I wanted to say earlier was that in 2021, we haven't counted yet, in 2021 we had over 200 different events, workshops, performances, concerts, half of which were free. And you know, the very program that Danielle came out of at Taconic Hills is one of those. We're really proud of the programming we're doing. Let's see, up next with a story about getting beyond waiting for time to pass. From Salisbury, Connecticut, please welcome Kitty Kiefer.
So, this year in March, I turned 70. A co-conspirator, I think. And when I turned 70, I realized that for sure, finally, my life was half over. When I get to be 140, I don't know what it's going to be like, but it's not going to be anything like being 70. Starting around, I don't know, 2011, because I forced myself to go swimming in Lakeville Lake. I stand at the boat launch, and there's a buoy, and I forced myself to swim out to the buoy and swim back. I grew up in Salisbury. And I was from a family of athletic competitors, relatively intelligent people, not, no Einsteins, but, fairly verbal and fairly intelligent. And we were always busy, we always had stuff to do. I was the oldest, only girl, and I felt trapped. I was trapped in my family of origin. I couldn't get out. I mean, I'm a kid, what can I do? I can't hitchhike away, I can't drive away, I can't moved to New York. I'm a kid. I'm 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I'm trapped. So I figured out how to get by, how to stay, how to do what I had to do. But I was constantly watching. High school came and went. I went off to college. Went to college in Maine. When I got to college, I remember my age. I'm 70 now, which means I graduated from college in the early 70s. So that was before the internet, before credit cards, before cell phones, before computers, computers were the size of this room and could add 1 + 2. But everything was very different as far as being connected to anything. I got up to Lewiston, Maine, and I thought, no one knows where I am. No one knows what I'm going to do next. And it was great. I mean, I could feel the wind just lift me. I was free for the first time in my whole life. I was free to become something. Who knows what, but I was free. So I loved college. I did everything that I wanted to do pretty much. I picked courses that interested me. I tried things. I was very involved in student government, very involved in student conduct issues, campus leadership. I was very fulfilled. I didn't worry about waiting for time to pass. I didn't look for how to get to the future or how to go back to the past. I stayed in the present for the 4 years that I was in college. I got out, remember driving down the Main Turnpike thinking, swear word, I have made no plan. I don't know what I'm going to do next. So I went back home to Salisbury, and immediately the came back over me of being trapped. I thought, rats. All these other kids made all these plans and are off to New York City or off to Europe and Salisbury. Salisbury. So anyway, I decided, well, I'm going to quit smoking and become fit. So I did. I quit smoking, I started running, I'd always taught skiing at Catamount. I became a Nordic ski racer and a telemark racer, which for those of you who ski, that's slalom racing with a free heel. I then took a job working out for the Sierra Club on Donner Summit in California. I lived out there, and there I stepped into a world where time was the present, and I was free again. When I became part of the present, you could feel yourself lift up. This lodge, the last year I was there, I was solo in charge of it. We had over 862 inches of snow. I had to keep the parking lots clear for all those flatlanders who came up from the Bay Area. They never had any tread, so we had to, they were getting stuck. And it was more fun than I can tell you. We had to get food into the lodge, had to get people out of the parking lot. It just went on and on. But I realized I couldn't do this forever because I was in my 20s, early 30s, amazingly fit. But I couldn't do that life when I was 70. It was just too severe. So I thought, what am I going to do? Once again, that cloud came down. What am I going to do? How am I worry about the future? Look at the past, worry about the future. I said, law school, that's the answer. Law school. So I took myself down to Sacramento, went to law school. That was a grind, a real grind. Again, the cloud of trapped was there. I had to work about 35 or 40 hours a week. I ran 40 miles a week. I went to school at night. I'm not sure if I slept, but I read a lot. And I just ground my way through it. And here I am today, a lapsed attorney. But I made it, and as I got out of law school, I fell in love and married the man who is the father of my only child, our only child. And we moved back to Massachusetts. And I was pregnant at my swearing in. So I was this big red blob going up on the stage at Faneuil Hall to sign the big book. And every attorney in Massachusetts, when they're sworn in, signs the big book. And so I thought, I think I'm getting trapped again. And I was. But motherhood is it's a great trap, but it's nonetheless, you have to watch yourself, you have to pay attention, you have to be there to pick up, be there to drop off, make sure there's this food, make sure, time, write it down, make a list, time. So I did the best job I could, and Hazel is a great person, and apparently not a mass murderer, or and it's turned out just fine. But when she went off to college in like 2008, 9, suddenly I could feel it again. I could feel the freedom coming back, and I thought, I got to keep this. I got to work on keeping this. I got a call from one brother who said, "Dad's getting really old. Can you come to Salisbury and help?" And if there was one person in Salisbury who didn't need help, it was my dad. But I thought, great choice, I'll go down. What else have I got going on? So I come back down to Salisbury, and I came down, forgot one thing. When I was up in Boston area, I looked for life-changing events. I went into, the Diocese of Massachusetts offered a program called anti-racism training. So I went into this thing thinking, what is this? I got into it and I realized, A, that I was a racist. I had been raised a racist. B, that as I stepped into basically a spiritual blowout with parts of my brain, I realized I was not waiting for time to pass in this. I was stepping into a new experience of living, which has stayed with me. I mean, I don't talk about racism much, but it's part of me. It's part of me. So anyway, I get back to Salisbury, and I'm looking around town, and I'm thinking, there's no internet here, there's no cell phone reception here, there's this, there's not that. So I used my political animal inside of me, and I try to become engaged in a way that's productive and non-adversarial. I hear about, much the way I heard about anti-racism, I hear about, and much the way I heard about this place, this thing called writing, intuitional writing in Housatonic Mass. What in the world is this? So I go up to a studio, and it's a person who's become a friend. You come in with blank paper, a couple of pencils, you sit down at a table, break up a chocolate bar to share, and the woman, you pull out of a glass jar a prompt. You write from a prompt. You write 7 minutes or 8 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You have to keep your pencil moving on the paper, and you can't stop until she says stop, and then you stop. You can share or not, doesn't matter, no one can comment. When I'm doing that, I step again into the updraft, and I can lift off. I'm still writing with the same group. So, anti-racism, writing, art now, I'm doing more and more visual art again. I'm 70. I started swimming again in about, 2012 or 13. I hadn't swum since high school. So you stand on the shore of Lakeville Lake, and you see this buoy. And I looked at that buoy, and it was before Memorial Day, and it was cold in the water, and I thought, I can't do this, I'm going to die. This will kill me. For sure this is going to kill me. So I go online and I get some little flippers and a little safety thing that the Grove people want you to have a safety thing, a float. And I got a wetsuit because it was cold. And so I thought, well, I'll try. If I die, I die. So I go and I paddle out, holding the safety thing as a flutter board out. And I'm thinking, I'm present. I'm present now. I'm not thinking of anything else. I'm not worried about the future or what I've done, or I'm just doing this. So if I do it more and I do it harder, it's better. So, but I do this every summer now. And usually by about August, I can do the crawl again. But when I begin, it's just, oh, I can't believe I'm making myself do this. But I do it. So, I guess what I look for as a 70-year-old person is freedom. Freedom to be and freedom to live fully in the present.
Oh my goodness. All right. Oh, okay. So up next, with a story about a hike up a mountain and the kindness of strangers from Canaan, New York. Please welcome Paula Kaplan-Reiss.
So it's August 3rd, 2019, which is a good 6 months or so before the pandemic, maybe longer. And my mother has died in Florida. And I and my brothers had spent a week prior to that with her in the hospital in Florida. And because it was before the pandemic, we were all able to be with her. And we were able to say goodbye and say our last words to her. And it was an incredibly painful time because there's no one other than my immediate family who I was closer to in my life. And it was a huge loss. So August 10th, a week later, we decided to come up to our house in the Berkshires. We left Florida, we went to New Jersey where our home was, and we also had a home in the Berkshires. We decided to come up to the Berkshires and really spend a day taking a hike. Afterwards, we were planning on going to a show. It's just gonna be a beautiful day to sort of relax and chill out. And so we decided to go to Monument Mountain in Great Barrington. I don't know if other of you know that mountain. It's a beautiful mountain. And we've hiked it before. And it's not a really difficult hike, but it's a beautiful hike. So my husband and I go up this mountain and we're taking in the scenery. And we get to the top and it's beautiful boulders, and you'll see in the program, the picture of me in the program is me on top of Monument Mountain. And it's, as I said, it's beautiful and really enjoying and seeing people up there and dogs and children and everybody's up there. I come to in a hospital and I look up and my husband, I must have said something like, oh, I'm with my mom, because I'm in a hospital, right? And I've just been with my mom. And I'm like, you know, here with my mom, and my husband turns to me and says, no, your mom died, remember? And I thought to myself, oh yeah, that's right, I do remember. He said, you fell off Monument Mountain 4 days ago. And I went, I don't remember that, you know, at all. And he said, yeah. And you're in Albany Medical Center. And I went, Albany Medical Center? I was born in Albany Medical Center. That's the last time I was there. And so it's quite a while ago. And he said, yeah. He said, he goes, I turned around. We were on the top of the mountain. We were about to go down. And I turned around and I'm calling Paula. I don't see you. Like, Paula, where are you? And no answer. Needless to say, everybody on the mountain hears him yelling, Paula, Paula, and everybody is immediately getting on their phones because they know this is not a good story. And they're all looking, and apparently when you look from the top of the mountain in the summer, it's all brush, so you can't like see down and see where I could be, and I'm not responding. Well, there was an 18-year-old boy, Henry. I call him my hero, Henry. Henry was hiking that mountain with his mom. And he had hiked that mountain many times. And when he saw that nobody knew where I was, he turned to his mother and he said, I'm gonna find her. And he did. Apparently I don't know how he knew where to go, but he knew, within 20 minutes he found me. He said he saw me on like a cliff, like hanging, I don't know, near an edge of a cliff, like I could have kept going, and I'm moaning. And he's, you know, and I'm not unconscious, but I'm sort of moaning, and calls my name because he knows my name. He's heard everybody screaming my name. He calls my name, and he finds me, and he comes to me, and he's able to call on his phone to the emergency people, and they were able to figure out with their phones, I guess, where I was, to let them know where I was. So I'm saying, asking what happened to me? And he goes, well, you broke 10 ribs, your clavicle, which is here. Some of these things I had to know what they were. He said, your tibia and your fibula, which is down here, which was a compound fracture, and that I had surgery a couple of days ago to insert a titanium rod in my leg, and I had a bad concussion, which explains why I don't remember anything. My brother, who happens to be a neurologist, he got to the hospital and watched the helicopter land. And as I'm hearing this story, it sounds like an episode of ER or Grey's Anatomy, like the helicopter and the whirling and, anyway. So I'm listening to this, and it's really hard to believe that all of this has happened to me and that I remember nothing. And last I remember, I'm on top taking a lovely picture on top of Monument Mountain. So I say to my husband, I need to call this Henry. I need to thank him for saving my life. I mean, that's unbelievable. Like, he saved my life. So he has his number, I call him up. Henry is delighted to know I'm alive and to hear from me. And I thank him and tell him how grateful I am that I'm still alive, and it was all because of him. And so I'm amazed. I spent 10 days in the hospital, which was a long time, and remember that I had spent a week in the hospital with my mother, while she was dying. So I've had a lot of the hospital, and at that point, I'm really trying to process what has happened to me. From the hospital, I was sent to rehab because I couldn't walk, I couldn't do much, and I couldn't use crutches because I broke all my ribs. Anyway, so they wanted to send me to rehab. I get to rehab, and I'm looking around, and I say to my husband, I'm just not staying here. I just can't be in this kind of setting anymore. I'll go home, I'll get a lot of physical therapy. I have to grieve my mother. My mother died. I haven't even had time to process that, no less than I almost died. So I get home, I do a lot of physical therapy, and within a few months, I'm really back to pretty good shape. I get back to the gym, I'm pretty active, I like to work out, and I like to dance, and I like to play tennis, and I do all these things, and who knew if I was going to get back to do any of those things, which I really did, which is amazing to me, because what's also amazing is that I didn't break my head or my neck or I'm not paralyzed, I'm alive. It's all hard to believe. So then, I hear about an organization called the Carnegie Hero Foundation. And the Carnegie Foundation is a really amazing organization that's quite old, that's been around since, I believe, the 1800s. And they reward, as one of many things they do, but they reward people who risk their lives to try and save others. And these can't be EMTs or fire people or any of those people. They have to be people who are just like you and I, who are willing, not all of us are willing to risk our lives to save others, but just regular people. And so I thought to myself, who deserves this award more than my hero Henry, my 18-year-old hero Henry? So I decide to nominate him, and I fill out all the paperwork, and I hear from the foundation, and they say that they're going to investigate this case, and it takes them almost a year to investigate a case before they reward somebody with a medal, and it's a cash award, and they do all sorts of amazing things for the family if you win. So then it's the pandemic. Then we move up here for good, and we sell our house in New Jersey, and I'm still, again, grieving my mother, and still taking in all these people who are just, everybody's looking at me like, how did you live? I mean, I really was like, people were just sort of amazed by this story. And I'm amazed because this unbelievable thing has happened to me, and I can't remember any of it. But I'm hearing all this stuff, and I know that this is a time when first responders, we're starting to hear the word first responders, but when this happened to me, we weren't using that word all the time, but I had a first responder that needed to be thanked. And I went to the fire chief in Great Barrington, Chief Charlie Berger, and I went to him and I thanked him, and he had organized 50 people in my rescue. And I was just so eager for people to be acknowledged for all that they've done, to help me survive. So sure enough, Henry wins. And again, I'm thinking to myself, I've had some horrible things happen in my life. I've had infertility and pregnancy loss, and I've had difficulties in child rearing, and I've also had breast cancer. And there are a lot of people in the world who've had those kinds of things in their lives and they've happened to them. But I don't know anybody who's fallen off a mountain, and I don't know anybody, there's no support group, and I don't know anybody who's lived to tell the story. But this is a story that needs to be told because we need to thank the people that enabled me to survive. So, as I said, he won the award. And I said to Henry, if I'm going up with you, back up that mountain with my family, with your family. And we also went up with an editor from the Berkshire Eagle. they were taking note of this big event, and it was in December of COVID, so we were outside, so it was a little safer. And we go up that mountain, and I'm looking around, going, "This is a steep mountain." And like, how did I live? And Henry's showing me where he went to find me, and it was just all too good to be true. And I went up on the top of that mountain, and sure enough, gave him, was there to present him with that medal. And he was, even though I had been with him for 5 hours, I had no memory of ever meeting him. So it was great to meet him and see how humble he was and what a wonderful human being he was. And so I gave him that award, and it was an incredible full circle moment with my family and with his. So it really goes to show you that, we've seen in the past few years, that more than the past few years, but there are a lot of horrible people in this world. We've seen that. But there are some amazing people in this world. And those are the people that we need to recognize, take note of, and acknowledge. So sure enough, about a few weeks ago, I went to a wedding. And I'm on the dance floor, and I'm dancing, and I'm enjoying, and really having a great time. It's a wedding. And this woman came up to me and said, "Aren't you the one that fell off a mountain and broke like 1,000,000 bones?" I said, "Yeah, I healed."
So our final storyteller for the day, we have a tradition here at the Opera House where we do this twice a year, well, 3 times a year now. We have an event in the summer, maybe some of you came to it. We do it up at the Road Jam Barn in Hillsdale. And we always invite sort of like an audience favorite storyteller back for the fall one. And so she's back to tell her story about her love and need for maps and how it's impacted her life in unexpected ways from Cloud Wreck, New York. Please welcome back Sarah Katan.
When I was a little girl, I had a placemat that had a map of the United States on it, and another placemat that had a map of the world. And when I was waiting for a meal to be served, I would study these maps, and I just thought it was so cool that everything had a name, and so I learned the states' names, and I loved learning the names of the mountains and the rivers of the world. Also, when I was a little girl, my family drove everywhere. We were not big flyers, so even going to places like Vermont or North Carolina, we always drove. Now, I'm an only child, and this was pre-streaming, pre-DVD, pre-tablets, so I had to think of ways to entertain myself. So I started asking to see the atlas. And I would flip through the atlas and I would figure out where we were and where we were going. And it was about this time that I kind of realized that we could use landmarks to make sure that we were on the right path. We were going in the right direction. And I got pretty good at using the atlas, so much so that I actually became the family navigator. I would tell my parents, like, oh, well, you were going to take like I-90, and then we're going to get off at this exit, and then we'll be in this town, and our hotel will be down that road. And I was usually right. So I became the family navigator. Now, my interest and kind of love of maps continued when I was at summer camp. I remember purchasing from the camp store a bandana that had a map of the camp on it. And I was becoming quite the little map geek because I would sit in my bunk bed during free time and I would actually study this map, learn where all the different cabins were, which came in really handy at the all camp capture the flag game, because my friends and I were able to sneak behind enemy lines using my map. When it came time to find a job, you would think that I would just gravitate towards cartography and like just do maps all the time. But no, I became a science teacher, but maps were still a part of my life because as a teacher you create something called a curricular map. So that's what it is. Now this isn't to say that I was just like perfect with navigation and maps all the time. I had some really good epic fails. There was one time when I was in high school. It was actually my high school graduation party. We were at a park with my friends. We decided to go for a hike. Now these are trails I'd been on so many times, but I got turned around, we got lost, we ended up on the other side of the park where we should not have been, and it took us several hours to get back to where the party was. There was another time when I was on a date with a guy, and we were hiking up a mountain that was behind the school I was teaching at, but I could not find the trailhead. It was so embarrassing. I thought I knew where it was, but we ended up in a different place, and oh God, it was just a terrible feeling. But I think there were some other redeeming qualities I must have expressed because that boyfriend is now my husband. Then there was another time on that same mountain, I was leading a group of 8th graders on a hike, and I missed the turn in the trail, and so we kind of just kept walking into the woods. And that's the thing about getting lost in the woods sometimes. You don't always realize you're not on the trail anymore. You kind of just keep walking, and you think you're on the right path, and you're like jamming in the woods, and it's all good. And then you get like this little tingly sensation in the back of your neck. You look around and you realize, nope, not on a trail anymore, just in the middle of a forest. So we had to bushwhack our way back to the trail and everything was fine. But there are two things I think of when I think back on those events. The first is that I did not have a physical map with me, and I think things would have turned out very differently had that been the case. And then the other thing is that in any of those situations, I never asked for help. I really felt like it was my idea to go on this hike. I was leading it, and so I had to be the one to solve the problem. When my husband and I became pregnant, we were overjoyed. And I threw myself into creating a village. I started going to prenatal yoga right away so that I could meet lots of other mama friends who were pregnant around the same time. I read lots of books and websites and blogs. I was super curious about what my body was doing, what baby's body was doing, and I really wanted to learn about the landscape of pregnancy. As it came time to get ready to deliver, I started, making the plan. Again, reading lots of different things, lots of different options, and making the plan that made the most sense to me and my family. And so, I knew the plan, my husband knew the plan, our doula knew the plan, the nurses knew the plan, the doctor knew, everybody knew the plan. And when it came time to deliver, we went through the plan. But at the end of the plan, baby still hadn't been born yet. So we had to go to plan B. And then we had to go to a plan C. And in the end, our son Cameron was born via emergency C-section. And now I am a parent. And it is all things terrifying and wonderful all at the same time. And I also feel this a sense of confidence because I have created my village. I have books and websites and blogs that I can reference if I have any questions. And it's really, really hard, but I'm okay. I've got this. One of the things I really gravitated towards were developmental milestones. Now, these are like little dominoes that a child will go through as they develop different skills. And it's something that I could see like, oh, Cameron's doing this now and he'll do that next. But what I started noticing was that Cameron's peers were starting to knock down some more dominoes ahead of him. He hadn't gotten there yet. And it kind of made me feel a little nervous, but everything was fine, everything in its own time, right? So I had a friend over, and she had brought her daughter and his little play date with like little infants. It's super cute. And her daughter is exploring the stairs in front of our house. And she's like climbing up them, crawling, being all curious. What's my body do when I do this? And I had been trying to get Cameron interested in going up and down these stairs for what felt like weeks. And he just wasn't interested, didn't take. So I asked her, I was like, oh my gosh, how did you teach your daughter how to go up and down these stairs? This is great, I want to learn. And she looked at me kind of funny and was like, what do you mean, teach her? She's just kind of curious. She sees us doing it. She wants to do it too. And so she's learning on her own. And I remember getting this sense of real sadness and also frustration. Like every other parent in my world had gotten this parenting manual, this handbook that I hadn't gotten. Like how did they know when to teach their kids something directly, but when also just to let them explore and learn on their own? I had this overwhelming sense that I was not showing up for Cameron in the best way that I could. Like I was not being the best mom that I knew that I could be. I was sad and frustrated by that fact. When Cameron was 15 months old, he still wasn't saying any words. And this was a big red flag for our pediatrician. So he said, let's bring in a speech therapist. So we got a speech therapist. And then speech therapy turned into speech therapy and physical therapy. And then that turned into speech therapy, physical therapy, and occupational therapy. And then that turned into speech therapy, physical therapy, occupational therapy, and an appointment with a developmental pediatrician. It's February 2021, and COVID is everywhere, including in our own house. My husband has COVID, and he is quarantined in the bedroom. We can't go to the doctor's office anymore for this appointment, so now it is over Zoom. So now we are Zooming with a doctor that I have never met before, who has never met my son. And after about 10 minutes of him interviewing me and observing Cameron, he said, I think I know what's going on here. And I feel like I'm standing on the platform of a train station. And there's a train coming, and it's an express train. It's not supposed to stop here. And I see it coming, I hear it coming, I know what this is gonna feel like. And yet still, when that train speeds through the station, I can't catch my breath because it's moving too fast. The air is swirling around me. I can't focus on anything as the train is speeding through. And that's what I remember feeling like when the doctor says, your son is a child with autism. And that's when my husband and I had to set aside all of the maps that we had drawn for our family because they didn't apply to us anymore. It's been over 1.5 years since Cameron's diagnosis, and he is doing great. He's in a pre-K program that supports all of his needs. He loves school, he loves his classmates and his teachers, all his therapists. In fact, this weekend we've had kind of a difficult time because he really wants it to be a school day. So he could go to school and he doesn't understand it's the weekend. He's like, why can't I go to school? I said, it's the weekend. He goes, it's a school day. I'm like, no, okay. Fine. So that's just going so great. We're also having moments as a family that I didn't know if we were going to be able to have a year and a half ago. Like this year, we were able to go trick-or-treating with him. And this was something that was only possible because of the support of his teachers and therapists. And we were able to have this really special moment as a family to go trick-or-treating. As for me, I'm doing okay. Things are really hard. At the same time that we had COVID in the house and an autism diagnosis, I was starting a small business. I am an outdoor educator and a guide, which means that I do workshops, like teaching people navigation and how to use maps and love them as much as I do. But parenting a child with extra needs is really isolating. And I'm learning how to grow my village, but it's taking a long time. There are some days when it seems like Cameron is just a typical 4-year-old and we've got crazy in the house all the time. And then there are times when his differences are so apparent, especially when we have play dates with neurotypical peers. And there's just a longing, because even though Cameron is now verbal, he still doesn't communicate as smoothly as his peers do. And there's just a longing for him to be able to do that. One of the reasons that Cameron is doing so well is we're figuring out how to help him manage his day-to-day. And one of the ways that we're doing that is through something called a visual schedule. And this just blocks out for him where he's going to be throughout the day. So, we start at home, we go to school, we might have aftercare, and then he comes home. That's it. But that's the type of thing that he needs. And I kind of realized the other day as we were playing with his different tiles of what can happen during his day, I started realizing that really this is just like a mini map for him. It's a mini map of his day. Because he's the type of kid who needs to know what's coming next. He's the type of kid who needs to know what's coming around the bend. And I know exactly how that feels.
And thank you to all of our storytellers. Let's give them all a round of applause. Thank you so much for being here today. We love all of our programs. This program is really special, and we're glad you could share with us. Storytellers, if you wouldn't mind hanging out for a second, we want to get a group photo. Have a great rest of your fall. Please keep in touch. Please sign up for our mailing list so we can, tell you about what's going to happen next in the spring. And have a happy Thanksgiving. See you all soon.